Welcome to Infidelity Secret. Your support is everything to us. 90% of you haven't subscribed yet, so please hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so we can keep bringing you amazing content. Also, we'd love to know where you're watching from. Leave your city in the comments. Now, let's dive into today's tale. The silence in my office was not the peaceful kind. It was suffocating, a vacuum where my thoughts screamed louder than any noise. Outside the glass window, the city lay still under the midnight haze. My office light was the only one still on in the building, casting long shadows on paperwork I had stopped reading hours ago. My heels were long discarded under the desk. My blouse, once crisp and white, was now rumpled and creased from a day that seemed like it never truly started. In front of me sat an old photograph. It was us, Daniel and I with our children, taken on a beach in Santa Monica years ago. He stood beside me, his arm around my waist, with that familiar smirk. I was smiling, clutching April, our youngest, while our other two raced along the shore. I remembered that day vividly. I thought we were a team, a family. I thought I had everything. But memories lie sometimes. They capture moments, not the silence that comes after. Over the years, our home had become a theater of performance. No yelling, no fights, just a daily dance of pretending. And now, staring at that photo, it felt like a picture of strangers. Daniel Adams wasn't a monster in the traditional sense. He didn't hit, he didn't shout, but he controlled with precision, like a puppeteer pulling invisible strings. Cold, collected, and deeply aware of the impact his presence had on people. He didn't have to dominate a room with volume. His gaze was enough, calculated, unblinking. And I, Grace Adams, I had become part of the scenery. His wife of 19 years, his accessory. I used to think raising 3 children together, weathering layoffs, and buying a home meant we were partners. But somewhere in those years, I stopped existing as a person and started functioning as a role. The good mother, the perfect wife, the quiet enabler. It wasn't always this way. Daniel had once been warm. He used to make burnt pancakes on Sunday mornings, laugh at documentaries, whisper silly stories into my hair at night. But something changed when he got promoted to regional director of a pharmaceutical logistics firm. He became strategic. Every interaction, even with me, felt like a negotiation. He said the Thursday trips were essential. Regional oversight, sales visits, team morale. I never questioned it. I welcomed the space. Those Thursdays became my sanctuary. Wine with friends, silence in the house, a chance to breathe. Then one Thursday night, I wore a silk blouse. Not for Daniel, but because it reminded me of who I used to be. Feminine, alive. He came home early that evening. His eyes scanned me at the doorway, slow and assessing. "Interviews go well?" I asked, my voice flat. "Scheduled for Monday," he said with a neutral smile. "Everything's lined up." He always spoke like that, calm, ambiguous. We made small talk, ate dinner like coworkers, watched television without watching, went to bed without touching. But 2 weeks ago, on a trip to Nashville, a forced family getaway that Daniel had orchestrated for appearances, something snapped. We visited the Grand Ole Opry, took smiling photos, stopped at Lambert's Cafe where they threw dinner rolls across the room like it was magic. The kids loved it. I smiled because I had to. But Daniel, he sat there, stone-faced, not even a chuckle. On the drive home, I turned off the music. "Daniel," I said, gripping the steering wheel, "have you ever thought about cheating?" He didn't react at first, just looked out the window. "Why do you ask?" "Because we're not really married anymore. We're roommates, co-owners of a house. Maybe something radical could shake things up." He turned to me, his eyes cold. "That's an odd thing to suggest." "Maybe, or maybe it's the only honest thing I've said all year. If that's something you truly feel you need," he said with eerie calm, "you have my blessing." And that was the moment I knew. He wasn't surprised. He was prepared. In fact, he might have been orchestrating it all along. When we got home, I kissed our kids goodnight and went straight to bed. My heart pounded, not from guilt, but from suspicion. The next day, everything imploded. Daniel left early, claiming he was helping his father fix a fence. A lie so flimsy, even our children didn't believe it. But I let it go. I always did. By noon, my phone buzzed. It was his mother. "We need to talk. It's about April." My blood ran cold. She explained through shallow breaths that the genealogy kit we'd done last Christmas for fun had returned something unexpected. "A woman reached out," she said. "Claims to be April's grandmother, but not from your side or Daniel's." "What?" "She says her son, Luke, is April's biological father. Luke Barrow, my boss, respected, charismatic, married. The man I had once confided in during Daniel's long absences. Nothing physical had ever happened. At least I didn't think so. There were nights, drinks, hushed conversations, but no intimacy. Or had there been? I called him that night. I needed answers. He answered on the third ring, his voice familiar and calm. "Grace," he said, "I've been expecting your call." And with that, the world tilted. But the real story hadn't even begun. I watched from my car. From across the street, behind tinted windows, every Thursday became ritual. I knew Grace's pattern: dinner with Luke, then his house, then lights off around midnight. I didn't react. Not outwardly. Cheryl's husband, a quiet tech wizard, helped me install cameras, trackers, and discreet audio devices. Every movement recorded, every lie cataloged. I built a case. Not for court, but for control. Then one afternoon, my assistant Kathy walked into the office holding a manila envelope. "Sir," she said, hesitant, "you need to see this." Inside were scanned photos. Grace and Luke, at a Christmas party, at a gala, kissing behind a curtain, dated before we were even married. So it wasn't new. It was a continuation. I had married a woman who had never truly been mine. The next day, I called Luke. He picked up, cheerful, unaware. "Mr. Barrow," I said. "It's Edward Adams. I believe we need to talk." We met at a bar on the edge of town. Quiet. Forgettable. Perfect. He walked in, tried to act composed. "I know about you and Grace," I said. "I know about April." His face didn't crumble. It cracked. I slid him a folder. Inside were the details: photos, timelines, receipts, and a non-disclosure agreement. I didn't want scandal. I wanted leverage. "You have 72 hours, I said. He returned the documents in 24. Signed. Then came the next phase. I visited my lawyer, Willis, an old friend with a talent for discretion. "I want everything," I said. "House, custody, assets." "And her?" "I want her to know I could destroy her, but I won't. That's the difference between us." Grace didn't suspect anything. She thought I was still in the fog of pain. I wasn't. I was preparing the fire. She walked in one evening, tired and distracted, and paused when I said, "Have you ever thought about what it would take to lose everything?" She laughed nervously. "That's dramatic." I didn't laugh. 2 days later, I served her divorce papers. She cried, pleaded. I didn't mean to fall back into it. "You had so many chances to stop." She moved out a week later, took an apartment across town. Luke stopped answering her calls. He resigned from public office citing personal reasons. The neighborhood whispered, but I remained silent. I didn't seek revenge. I didn't ruin her publicly. The truth was enough. I kept the house, the kids, my dignity. And for the first time in years, I felt free. Times, the deepest betrayals don't come with broken glass or loud shouting. They arrive quietly, in the form of silence, of things unsaid, of eyes that no longer meet. And in that silence, I learned the most important truth of all. Some people aren't meant to be fought for. They're meant to be let go. Because once the mask slips, there's no going back. And I never will. I